So this lesson is about slopes of lines. And you should be pretty familiar with slope, and as soon as you hear the word slope, you probably start thinking about this equation, y equals mx plus b. It's something that you learned in Algebra 1, and you should remember that the m is the slope of the line, and the b is the y-intercept of the line. That's where the line crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and put an x-axis and a y-axis on my paper here. You're going to want to do the same. If you're not using a ruler, you're going to pause, go get a ruler, take it to your parents, tell them to slap you with it, and then come back and draw these lines straight. So if you need to go get slapped with a ruler, go do it right now, please. All right, so here are my x and y axis. Okay, and I'm going to put a point on here, so I'm going to put a point at 0, 3. I'm going to draw a line that goes through this point, and it's also going to go through this point, -3, 1. Put the line on there. So some of you guys have asked me to make the videos a little more fun, a little more entertaining. So look, I used a purple line, right? That's pretty fun, isn't it? Y'all can decide later if it really was fun or not. But anyways, so I'm using purple for this line, and everything I do about this line is going to be in purple. Not to make it fun, but there's a reason for it. So here's my line. My purple line is going to be line K. Now immediately, there's some things that you should know about line K that I shouldn't have to tell you. So I'm going to go pretty quick with it. The first one is that this point right here, 0, 3, is the y-intercept. The next thing that you should also be able to do with this line, all by your little self, is find the slope. So you should be able to go from this point up to and right 3, just like I did there. So we went up to. Now, you probably drew arrows when you were learning this. They probably did stuff like this, up to. Well, that's fine. It is going up, but we want to start getting a little more serious about what we're doing. So for our y's, that went up 2, meaning +2. The y-axis up is positive. On our x-axis, we went to the right 3, which is +3. Okay, this way is positive, and then up this way is positive. If anybody can tell me why I just put arrows on only these sides of the x and the y-axis, and I didn't put them on these sides, be pretty impressed tomorrow if you can tell me why. All right, so here are my little things I know about this line. And I'm going to come over here and write down everything I know about. I'm going to come over here and write down everything I know about line K. So this will be line K's little information area. So the first thing I know about line K is I know the slope, right? And you need to recognize that slope is the change in y over the change in x. These little triangles mean change in, or you may hear them called delta. That's the Greek letter that looks like a triangle. So delta y over delta x just means the difference between the y values of the points and the difference between the x values of the points. But this is faster to write than this is. But when you have a picture like we do, it's very easy to count that it's 2 over 3. Now, notice when I said 2 over 3, the over is the line, right? It's the line between the fraction here. A lot of times you guys will say, I say, how does the graph, what's the slope? And you'll say down 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. And you're saying over, whether we go left or right. So you want to get out of that habit because it will bite you eventually. You'll get in a problem where you're doing up 2 over 3 and you should have gone up 2 and left 3, and you're going to have a big time problem on your hands. So the y-intercept we can write down is 0, 3. And you should also know this is the number we really need, right? The 0, all y-intercepts have a 0, so it's not really that important. At least it's not really that important for our equation. So our y equals mx plus b is going to say y equals 2 over 3x plus 3. And you guys all know how to do that, so that should have been a quick refresher. We're going to go back up here, and I'm going to draw another line. And I'm going to cheat, because I'm using a computer. And I'm going to draw another line right there. I'm going to change the color of it a little bit. I'm going to make it a nice, make it blue like that. I'll put my arrows here and here. And we'll call this line L, right? So remember, you can use lowercase cursive letters to name lines. And immediately, you should be able to write down a whole blob of information about this line. I can identify some points very quickly. This is the y-intercept right here, this point. It's 0, -2. I have another point over here, right? I could write down what that point is if I wanted to. I don't really need to because I'm going to count the slope just like this. I'm going to see that this slope goes up 2 and to the right 3. Just like my other one did, right? So this one's going to go up 2 and right 3. So you probably have observed here already that these lines are parallel, right? You saw me make them. I just copied this one and I slid it down. I didn't change anything about it except where it was located. So what you should get out of this is that two lines that have the same exact slope are always going to be parallel, and we're going to mark them with these arrows like this. So these arrows tell me that these two lines are parallel, which is going to prove to be really useful to us as we move on in geometry. But we're going to come down and we're going to go ahead and write down everything about line L. So line L. Remember the m, the slope, is the change in y over the change in x. So that's going to be 2, +2 over +3. Okay, I can write down the y-intercept. That's the point 0, -2. Scoot down a little bit more, I can write down the equation. Y equals 2 over 3x minus 2. Remember, whatever this number is, if it's -2, you put -2 in your equation. So, all right. Remember, pause it if you need to. So I'm going to put one more point on here, and I'm going to put it 1, 2, 3 right here. It's going to be the point. It's going to be the point 0, 6. And I'm going to put another point here. I'm going to put it right here. That's the point 2, 3. And then I'm going to draw or construct a line that goes right through that point, right through my y-intercept, and right through the other point that I made. So here is line, let's see, KL. I'm not going to use M because slope is M, right? You don't want to use letters that already represent other things in your problem. So this will be line T, right? T is a good letter. We're not using it for anything else. When I look at line T, hopefully you can make a little observation about how line T intersects line K and line L, because it's not a random line that I came up with. Hopefully what you see, I'm going to draw a little square here. Here's my square. What you know about this square is that every angle in this square is a right angle, right? So I'm going to take this square and I'm going to rotate it so that it matches up to my line, my green line. Now, everywhere I put this square, it looks like all my angles are right angles, aren't they? What does that mean? What's the word for that when two lines intersect and they make right angles? Okay, hopefully you remember that's perpendicular, right? But I just wanted to prove to you that the green line is perpendicular to the purple line and the blue line. And if they are perpendicular, we should mark them. like this, right? So there's a right angle, there's a right angle. So now my picture, my graph, has a lot of detail to it, doesn't it? I have these right angles are marked, I have these parallel lines marked. So this picture is a lot more meaningful now than the ones you made in Algebra 1, where you just had a bunch of lines intersecting. We're still going to have pictures like that, but we're going to label them and put more detail in them. So I'm going to come down and write down everything I know about my green line, line T. Okay, so the first thing I need to find out is the slope of it. So I'm going to start at my point here, and I'm going to use a little darker or bigger line so you can see it. So I'm going to go down 3 and over 2 like that. I might get a little mixed up there when I get all these red lines next to each other, but I think you'll get the idea. If it is confusing, you can just move it down to any other point on the line, right? See how I put it there? It works no matter where I put it, as long as I put it from one point to the next point. That's what slope is all about, the constant rate of change. So right here I went down 3, so I put minus 3. And here I went to the right 2, which is plus 2. So now we can talk about line T. So the slope of line T, the change in the y values, was negative 3, over the change in the x values was positive 2. The y-intercept is 0, 6. And remember, 6 is what we're after, right? So we're going to write down y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 6. So the whole point of doing all this was not to have you practice graphing lines. It was to have you understand how parallel and perpendicular lines are related. So when we go back to our equations, we had to sum this all up, sum this whole lesson up in about 30 seconds. We would say that when two lines have the same slope, they're parallel. Okay, when two lines have this scenario going on with their slopes, they're perpendicular. But how would we describe what's going on with the slopes here? We went from 2 over 3 and we turned it into negative 3 over 2. Well, an easy way to remember it is to remember this little phrase, flip and switch. Okay? We flip it over and we switch it from positive to negative. Now, really, these are called opposite reciprocals. Okay, and the fancy way of saying that is opposite reciprocals are two numbers that, when you multiply them together, equal negative 1, right? Look at that, that looks fancy, right? But if you take our same numbers, 2 over 3 times negative 3 over 2, that equals negative 6 over 6, which equals negative 1. So when you look at the two slopes, what you're looking for is that they're either exactly the same, 2/3 and 2/3, or one of them is the flip and switch version of the other one. If we had had another equation here that said y equals 3 over 2x plus 6, now notice I don't have the negative here. That's not going to be parallel or perpendicular to anything. It's just going to be another line that, if we went up here, don't do this on your paper, but it's just going to be another line that, you know, just kind of just crosses them, doesn't do anything special, just another line that crosses them. So you got to be really cautious and really careful about these things. But so this line would just be intersecting. And you're going to have a lot of these, right? Because we're going to try to trick you and make you say it's perpendicular when it's really just intersecting. So that's it. See you tomorrow. Come in with some questions.